guys, welcome to my channel. My name is ReadingBear and I hope you are ready for some more stories. And today, we'll take a look at some new I Don't Work Here Lady content. If you enjoyed my content, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel and post some bear emojis in the comment. And now, let's dive right into the stories.
The first story is titled, "If You Give Me Your Keys, I'm Going to Toss Them in the Gutter." This happened about 16-17 years ago, when I was in my late 20s. Now, one thing I know about myself is that I'm a babyface. Even now, at 4'4", I'm tall and I have an athletic build, so I get mistaken for a young 20-something all the time. So you can imagine what I look like at the age of 27 or 28. Now, couple that with the fact that I'm a black man, relevant later, and you can just imagine what my life has been like, haha. There are few things in America more despicable than a young black man, right? So that's my life in a nutshell. Cursed to forever be the young black man. So my team was having a retirement celebration for our manager, and we had a dinner party at a restaurant near our workplace after hours. The shindig ended up being about 25-30 people, mostly older. I think I was one of 2 or 3 people there under age 40, and it was nice. Our manager shed a tear or two, gave a nice speech, blah blah, etc., etc. The restaurant was open for business, and there were other small parties, couples, etc. there, and they ignored us and we ignored them. But we weren't segregated. We were seated toward the center of the seating area around a large table and a second smaller one. So fast forward to the end of the dinner and we're all outside now, saying our final greetings and on the verge of dispersing, and I was among the group. So a few people start to make their way home and our group is now whittled down to about 10-12 people. Other patrons and pedestrians are coming and going like normal, and there we are just chatting amongst ourselves. Notably, our manager was still there with his plaque, a relatively large picture frame, and a couple of gift bags, so again, it should have been evident to anybody who was in the restaurant for the last hour who we were, you would think. And then it happens. I'll call her Pre-Karen, PK for short, since this was before people like her were a meme. PK, excuse me. Me? Yes, ma'am. PK, here are my keys. Me? For PK, for you to get my car. Me? I'm sorry I don't work here, ma'am. PK, I don't have time for games. Here are my keys. As she's saying this, she tries to stuff her keys in my hand. Now I'm pissed. Me, if you put your keys in my hand, I'm going to throw them across the street and into the gutter. PK, then why do you have a badge on? As she's saying this, she reaches out to grab my badge, like WTF, which was on a lanyard hanging around my neck down around my midsection. But before she can, I snatch it away. Me, if you touch me again, I will consider it assault and call the police. I don't work here. She withdraws her hand and I release my badge, which she proceeds to study for the 2 or so seconds it would take to figure out it's not a restaurant or valet badge. I believe the restaurant contracts out their valet service, and having done valet work during college, I am fairly certain my business attire does not in any way resemble the uniforms. Think tacky vest with logo and matching pants of the 2 or 3 companies that are in my area. And furthermore, none of them do badges on lanyards. Then she looks me up and down, comes back to lock eyes with me, and while starting to turn away, utters that word, you know which one, under her breath. Not gonna lie, it caught me off guard, and in the 15 years since, I've thought of the perfect comeback more times than I care to admit. The other story of my life, sigh, but on the bright side, I'm prepared now. But in that moment, I simply couldn't force words to come out of my mouth. So I just turned around and tried to shake off my shock and anger and proceed as if everything was fine. Most of my remaining co-worker group, a mix of black and white, was aware of what had just transpired, but there was nothing to be said or done really, so we just kind of started small talking again. The next story is titled, "Karen Gets Crap Face Planted and Knocked Out." I'm self-employed and make a living on collecting and selling classic and antique cars. Most people are nice and realize when they make a mistake and move on, but not that day. I think I met the most Karen that ever Karened, as super mega Karen as you must. And I was not alone, I was with the love of my life. Diddy, I mentioned that I discovered I'm gay after my one marriage. I took part in not really knowing myself. A month ago, as far as memory serves, we were shopping at the big Bullseye store. I was in camo coveralls. My love was in a t-shirt and shorts, looking effeminate as he generally does. While shopping, I accidentally knocked a few boxes of items off a shelf and was in the process of putting them back on the shelf. I'm not a prick that leave messes for store workers to clean up, unlike some. While putting the boxes back, I was suddenly grabbed and someone attempted to spin me about. When that fails, it was followed by a huff that was the unmistakable grunt of a Karen in the wild. I announced loudly that I do not work here. Touch me again and I'll remove that hand at the wrist. Then a very loud voice in my ear shouted, "Well, I never." Then she was dumb enough to grab my wrist and start tugging, yelling, "Where is your manager? You're fired as of now." That's something you never ever do, is grab a war vet like you intend to do harm or drag them off. My response to the grab was to reverse my hand, grab that wrist and shove, sending whomever it was tumbling. The Karen crashed into the shelves behind her and went down. I spun, and there on the floor was the Karen, a literal living meme, huge in clothes 2 sizes too small, huge sunglasses, and very cheap. Tacky clothes out cold on the floor, or at least pretending to be. My love, who had been witness to her attack and grab, immediately called the police and started shouting for a manager. Karen seemingly woke up at the arrival of a manager and immediately started demanding the police for assault and that I be fired this instant. And yes, she had blood on her face from hitting the floor. That's when I lost it. "You grabbed me, you dumb idiot, and got yourself knocked out." She just got louder and tried to shut everyone up by repeatedly screaming at the top of her lungs and would not stop screaming. As soon as the police arrived and she saw them, she made a beeline for them and very loudly told her story and would not shut up when the police tried to question me and my love. Then she made a huge mistake. An officer told her to be quiet or he would arrest her for making a public disturbance. She reared back, made a nasty noise in her throat, and spit full on into the cop's face. She washed down on her face and out cold in seconds. Cops where I live do not play games at all. As she was being dragged out, once she was conscious after getting checked by emergency personnel, called to the store, I couldn't resist it. "You forgot something, Karen." Security cameras. Security tapes were checked and me and my love were allowed to get on with our business. Once she woke, I could hear her as she was dragged through the store, "Fire him and arrest him. He assaulted me." She eventually took a plea deal that resulted in her being on probation for 3 years and court-mandated anger management. All in, she was perma-banned from the Big Bullseye store. Wasn't the first time she had customer complaints against her, apparently. Small update. I saw her again in the Big Bullseye store 2 months later. I gave her my most evil smile and pointed at a security camera. She left in a hurry, and I have not seen her since. The next story is titled "Never Wearing a Black Shirt Again." For some reason, I've 21F. Always been confused to work at places wherever I go since I was like 12. Be it at supermarkets, malls, or parks. Someone always comes to me thinking I work there. This particular day, everywhere I went, people came up thinking I worked there. I work at the famous Green Apron coffee shop. Even though there isn't a set uniform, our dress code is typically a black shirt and some jeans. I just got off a 5-2 shift and was dead tired and annoyed with the customer interactions I had. Although all I wanted to do was go home and sleep, I had errands to run and planned to do shopping with my family. My first stop was to go grocery shopping with my mom as we were planning a family dinner for the weekend. I'm the shopper that goes to get what they want/need, while my mom is more of a browse shopper. So I was going back and forth from the cart to the different aisles to speed up the shopping process while my mom was browsing. I don't know where everything is at this supermarket, but I can read the signs and go from there. Since I kept coming back to my mom and dropping things off in our cart, this old lady that kept looking at me assumed I worked there. I would have helped any other day, but I didn't want to talk to anyone other than my mom, and I had my headphones on. As I was talking to my mom, the old lady asked me where something is. The interaction was in Spanish, so not everything would be translated word for word. Old lady: "Girl, do you know where this item?" Can't remember what she asked me, is. I just quickly turned to her, "Sorry, I don't work here," and continued speaking with my mom and asking what else she needed. I can't really blame the lady for thinking I worked there given how I was asking my mom what she needed, but I wasn't wearing the green shirt and black apron the employees wear, and I had my headphones on. However, this lady was set on having me help her. I noticed the old lady watching me ever since me and my mom went inside the spices aisle, so I was able to see who was with her shopping. Since I didn't help her, the old lady sends her grown daughter to ask me a question. Once again, I say, "Sorry, don't work here." I didn't process that they were family yet until they sent their toddler grand/daughter to me. Little girl: "Excuse me, do you know where this is?" I was getting quickly annoyed by this family, not taking a hint, but I wasn't about to snap at the poor girl. Again, I say, "Sorry, sweetie, but I work here. Please tell your family to stop bothering me," and turned to my mom begging her to finish with her shopping. My mom looked at me disapprovingly for not helping this family. Before I can refute, I feel myself be grabbed by the shoulder and turned. This man I've never seen before angrily shouts at me, "Why are you only helping this woman and refusing to help my family? They even sent my 5-year-old daughter and you wouldn't help her." Even though all I wanted to do was scream and punch this guy for grabbing me roughly, I put on my customer service persona to defuse the situation. "Sir, I'm sorry that your family has confused me for someone that works here, but if you look for someone with a black apron, I'm sure they'll be glad to help you out. I'm shopping here with my mother and helping her out. Maybe if you do the same, your family wouldn't have asked me. Have a great day." And I forcibly grab my mother and the cart and fast walk out of that aisle. I was shaking in anger and anxiety. The family probably, finally, accepted that I didn't work there cause I didn't see them again while we were in line. While on the cart ride back, my mom told me that man wouldn't have screamed at me if only I helped the old lady. I looked at my mom in disbelief, but chose to ignore her and not say anything. Putting that interaction behind me, I went to the mall with my twin brother and sister. Still wearing my black shirt and having headphones on, I went about shopping. We went inside the Disney store to buy a present for our niece. I was already done and paid for my present, so I was just looking around while my siblings were still deciding what to get. From the corner of my eye, I see this mom walking towards me, flagging me for my attention. I just look at her blankly, and then she registered I didn't work there. A simple sorry would have been fine, but she just had to put the blame of mistaking me for an employee on me. "It's just that you were wearing a black shirt. I thought you work here. Maybe don't wear that so you don't confuse people." I just shrugged my shoulders and said, "I don't care." Moving to different stores and buying things I wanted. I was the first one done with my shopping, so I asked my sister for the car keys so I can drop off my things. Looking for the entrance we came from, I was walking everywhere around this department store. This department's store uniform is black pants and a black shirt. Mind you, I have headphones on and carrying multiple bags. I'm walking towards the entrance where I think we parked. 2 ladies are walking the opposite direction towards me. One in a wheelchair, the other pushing her. The one in the wheelchair snaps her fingers at me and starts to talk, but the one pushing her says something along the lines of "leave her alone. She doesn't work here." The one in the wheelchair then rudely questions, "Why would she be wearing a black shirt then if she doesn't work here? She needs to do her job. She's wearing a black shirt." Should I have ignored her comment and went my merry way? Absolutely. Did I say things and act a bit too far? Probably. But I was so tired and fed up of having these people speak to me so rudely and blame me for things I have no control over. I was off the clock and still had people screaming at me just because they thought I was a worker. I snapped at this lady. So I bent down to be at this lady's eye height. "What am I supposed to wear then? I can't ducking wear a black shirt now, cause you're too dense to see I don't work here. I got headphones on and carrying different bags from other stores. You know what? You look like you work here. You're wearing a black shirt and you don't know where things are. Call your manager over here. You're a terrible employee." This lady just looks shocked and is gaping at me and stuttering. The other lady pushing her just looks down in embarrassment and mumbles an apology and rolls the woman away quickly. I just stand there taking deep breaths to calm myself down. Eventually I find the car and just wait for my siblings to come back. Haven't worn a black shirt since then aside when I work, but I still get confused as an employee. I guess I just have the look of an employee everywhere I go. The next story is titled "No, my old manager can't order me around either." First off, to be fair, I used to work at the place this happened. I used to work as a pickup clerk at a nearby Giant, but I stopped working there about a year ago. But because of my job, I basically have the entire store memorized and can quickly point out what row something should be in if I was asked. That, plus the fact that I sometimes chat with my old coworkers, could make someone assume I still work there. Anyways, I was there yesterday, looking for ingredients I was missing for dinner. But while I was looking, someone walked up to me. She was about the same age as me and had the same vibe of "I need to find something, but I'm too anxious to just ask an employee around her that I usually have." She got my attention, then politely asked where something in another aisle was. I pointed it out to her. She thanked me and went on her way, and I went back to looking for my ingredients. About a minute later, someone else came up to me and got my attention. But before I could even say yes, they started talking. Let's just call her Karen for now. "Karen, I need to get whatever it was she needed." "Me? Oh, that's an aisle number, whatever it was. Karen, I already checked there, and they were all out. Me, oh, well, sorry about that. Maybe you'll have some more later. I then turned to go back to my shopping when she said the next magic words. Karen, can't you just go to the back and check? Of course, I was pretty confused at that, and turned to look at her. Me? No, I don't work here. Karen, immediately starting to get annoyed. Yes, you do. I've seen you around here before, and you just finished helping the other girl. Me? Well, I used to work here, so I know where stuff is, but I quit like a year ago. Karen, don't give me that. Why else would you be here all of the time? Me? Yeah, because I shop here. Karen started to look genuinely pissed when I said that for some reason, and I decided then was a perfect time to leave and avoid getting yelled at. I continued getting what I needed, constantly checking over my shoulder to make sure I wasn't being followed and probably looking incredibly suspicious. I finally got everything I needed and made a beeline towards the self-checkout area. Now, I should note that the self-checkout space is directly across from the customer service area, where you can look up and look directly at the self-checkout. I say that because when I finished bagging my stuff, I looked up to see the Karen from before talking to my old manager at the customer service desk. I should also note that my old manager is a large chunk of why I decided to quit. Mostly because she was slash as a controlling a-hole that constantly breathes down other people's throats instead of doing any actual work. Surprisingly, she was doing her job for once, and nodded along while Karen angrily ranted at her. I decided to ignore the two and started to head towards the exit. But of course, that was the exact moment Karen decided to look over and spot me trying to leave. She pointed at me and yelled her, "That girl right there." Of course, everyone stopped and started to stare at me, which would have made just leaving a lot more awkward, so I stopped in my tracks. My old manager leaned over the counter to look at me, made a confused face, then turned to the lady. Manager, sorry ma'am, but she doesn't work here anymore. Apparently, being proven wrong by the manager Karen's tipping point because she suddenly started to scream at my old manager. Karen, you're the manager, she's an employee. Tell her to help me now. Surprisingly, my old manager gathered up the gall to actually turn to me again at that. Manager, RVOs, do you mind helping her? At this point, I was genuinely shocked at her question. I knew she would do anything for a customer at her employee's expense, but I didn't think it would extend to people that didn't even work for her. Me, are you going to pay me? Manager, no, but me? Yes, I do mind. See ya. And before either of them could say anything, I walked out of the store. I heard Karen start yelling again, but I couldn't properly catch what she was saying before I fully exited the store and headed towards my car. Yeah, not exactly an exciting ending, sorry. I'm just still reeling at both how furious that lady got when I said I didn't work here anymore, and the gall of my old manager to attempt to order me around after I haven't worked for her in literally a year. The more things change, the more they stay the same. The next story is titled Mistaken for the Manager. I just found this subreddit today, and I'm laughing my ass off. This happened 2 years ago, and I was by Washington, D.C., about 21 at the time, and I had to give a speech at one of the government buildings, so I walked out in a suit from my hotel room. And as I made my way down to the main lobby, there was this blonde lady that grabbed my arm. I turned around and asked her, "What's going on?" She proceeds to tell me this. "I was looking for you. They told me you can waive my fee at the bar, and I have the credit coupon for my mom." I then realized she thought I worked there, and I tell her I didn't. It took her a moment to process this, and asked again, "Aren't you the manager?" I told her I was not. Then she asked once more, "Are you sure?" I laughed at this point and told her I was not. I'm on my way to insert government building name here to give a speech, and I could be running late. She then says, "Oh, I'm so sorry, you just look like a manager or someone in that position." I laughed again and walked away. She wasn't a Karen, just a confused blonde lady, maybe a bit dumb-eyed, and she wasn't rude either, but it was funny. Thought I'd share this story with you guys. Update. She wasn't the only person to confuse me for the manager that day. There was a Brazilian teacher on a field trip with his students that confused me for the manager too. If you enjoyed the video, please subscribe to the channel and post some bear emojis in the comments.